Those of you who follow my channel regularly know that I praise mirrorless cameras in my reviews, but personally I still own only DSLR cameras. In this video I want to talk about the reasons behind it and what I think manufacturers need to do to make more people jump to mirrorless. Now, first one is the battery life. For most mirrorless on the market, average battery life is still somewhere around 3 or 400 shots, and that's actually not that great. Of course, there are cameras with longer battery life, for example Panasonic GH4, GH5, which go up to 600 or 700 shots, and there was also Samsung NX Mini, if you remember that camera a few years ago. It was amateur camera, but it had very big battery. I think it was the battery from one of their smartphones. That camera also was able to shoot around 600 images. Now, the main problem behind the battery life in mirrorless cameras is actually the way they work. They work in constant live view, which means battery is drained all the time by sensor, which is active and feeds live view, by electronics, and of course by LCD and electronic viewfinder or electronic viewfinder, which also take a lot of battery power. For example, if somebody were to use DSLR in live view all the time, you would once again get only around 300 to 400 images. So that's the reason behind the short battery life. Now, when you think about it, the problem is actually the way we use the cameras. Most of us will fire a shot or two, and then the camera will be idle for, I don't know, maybe half a minute, several minutes, depends what we are shooting. So basically, when you fire a shot, camera will use power maybe 1 or 2 seconds to read the data from sensor and write it to memory card. On DSLR camera, they use almost no power when in standby mode. Only thing that is active is this status LCD screen, which practically doesn't use power at all. So basically you can leave DSLR for days in standby and it won't drain the battery. And at the same point you will be able to pick it up and fire a shot just like this. When you have a mirrorless camera, it uses battery all the time, since it is in live view. So, for example, if you are walking down the street, taking 1 or 2 images every minute or two, camera will basically drain the battery in the time that you are not actually using it, in the time that the camera is only in standby. Of course, you can solve this with powering the camera off or using the power saver, which automatically will power the camera off after, I don't know, 10-15 seconds, something like that. Now, the problem with mirrorless is once you need to take a shot, once again you will have to power it on or wait the camera to power on. For now, I don't think that there is any mirrorless camera that can power on in less than 1.5 or 2 seconds, so there is always that delay. With DSLR there is no delay. When I see something that I want to take an image of, it looks like this, and it's over. For mirrorless cameras, when I raise it, I need to wait for camera to enter live view, and then I can take an image. There is actually nothing to be done here, as this is the way mirrorless simply works. One can only hope manufacturers will produce cameras with more power efficient electronics and bigger batteries. The second reason why I don't have mirrorless are electronic viewfinders. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe electronic viewfinders are actually superior to optical ones, but only when done properly. Electronic viewfinder will give you exposure preview before you take the image. You can have peeking inside of it, live histogram, and you can do manual focus properly, since you would be able to magnify the image inside the viewfinder. But the problem is most viewfinders are not there yet. Some of them are too bright, they have a very bad dynamic range, so they could indicate the image will be under or overexposed when it actually won't be. Also, there is the problem of color reproduction in electronic viewfinders. For example, you can probably imagine a scene where you are taking images somewhere in the forest in autumn, And before you can see all those trees with yellow and red and orange leaves, and there is a blue sky above it, and everything is so saturated and nice. So when you look through optical viewfinder on DSLR, you will basically see the same thing. But when you look through some electronic viewfinders, the scene will appear desaturated with blown highlights, and at least on a subconscious level that can lead you to think this is not a good scene or the camera is not properly adjusted. Also, I have noticed some electronic viewfinders don't show effect of polarizing filter as well as optical one can. In optical viewfinder you can really see a huge difference when you rotate a circular polarizer. But in electronic viewfinder sometimes that effect is not that obvious and it's a bit hard to adjust it. From what I've seen so far, the best electronic viewfinder is the one on Panasonic GH5. It is really big, has high resolution, it is very detailed, has good refresh rate and has one of the best color reproduction. Other viewfinders, Sony, Fuji, Olympus, they are not bad, but they are not as good as the one on Panasonic. Third reason is bad ergonomics. A lot of mirrorless cameras are small, but they sacrifice ease of use. They have too small buttons, often with very bad feedback, almost no feedback at all. And on most cameras, grip is simply not big enough. They can be too shallow, and most of them are not tall enough to allow full free fingers, like you see now, to grab onto the camera. So in those cases, the one finger will always be in the air with half of my palm underneath, trying to grab the camera, but there is nothing to grab onto. That's not that big of an issue if you use small lenses, but for example, if you want to have a combination of mirrorless camera with full frame sensor and proper high quality lenses like Sony A7R, you will notice all the high quality lenses primes with 1.4 or 2.8 zooms are very big and very heavy. Reason number 4 is limited lens choice. Okay, that's not that big of a problem anymore. Micro Four Thirds has something like 50 native lenses. Sony also has a lot of them, Fuji. But the problem is those systems are very new. So there is not a lot of used lenses out there on the market. That basically means if you want a certain lens, big chances are you will have to buy a brand new lens at full retail price, and those lenses can really be as equally expensive as those for DSLR. Number 5, adapters. Mirrorless is actually a good concept in a way that you can adapt your old lenses on mirrorless cameras. For example, metabones for combination of Canon lenses and Sony full frame cameras. That's a really good thing. But if you have any experience with those adapters, you know that mileage may vary. They work better with some lens and body combinations than the other. So I don't consider that as a permanent solution. For me, there is nothing better than native lens-to-camera combination. And last but not least, changing systems. I'm right now in Canon DSLR system. I have several L lenses and I have spent quite a lot of money on this system. Canon doesn't have a good mirrorless camera. They will probably introduce one in the next year in 2018. But if I wanted to jump systems right now, I would have to sell probably all my Canon gear. I would probably lose a lot of money and then have to buy brand new whatever I choose from mirrorless systems. And I'm not gonna do that. So for the end, what makes a good camera? I think it's a combination of ergonomics, image quality and entire system of cameras and lenses. And it's surprising how few mirrorless systems tick all the marks. For ultimate image quality and low light there are Sony Alpha 7 models, but these cameras are expensive, have terrible ergonomics and weird lens lineup. Small and affordable lenses are not that great, and those that are in fact huge and expensive. Best electronic viewfinder I saw so far is the one in Panasonic GH5. It is really big, detailed with good dynamic range, and it is also very responsive. But at the same time, GH5 is a really big camera. In fact, that is the largest mirrorless out there. Also, Panasonic doesn't have good color reproduction. Olympus has some nice cameras like Pen F and EM1 Mark II, but they are also expensive and have small sensor. At those prices I would rather have full frame. Fuji might even be the best system of them all, but also once again models from Fuji that I like are quite expensive, as is the case with lenses, and once again I'm not gonna jump the ship neither to Fuji. Ultimately, I'm hoping when Canon's full-frame mirrorless comes out next year at Photokina, it will be good in all important areas and keep the price reasonable. One can dream, right? So I think I have covered pretty much all the reasons why I'm not in mirrorless system at this point. If you think I have missed something or you don't agree with me at some point, and probably you don't, drop me a comment, maybe I will learn something from you. Thanks for watching.